Congressman Bowman, are you there?
Yes, I'm here, sir. What's up, man? Good afternoon.
Thank you so much for doing this. Really, really appreciate it.
You know what's hilarious? I'm going to make you laugh right now.
Okay.
I thought this was a conversation with just you and I.
Oh no. Oh no.
I thought I was joining like your podcast or something, or like
Oh,
one of your lives. And I get
oh,
on the Zoom and it's like 150 people. That's
oh,
hilarious.
oh. Well, I'm sorry. It is a conversation between you and me. These folks are just here to listen, and they'll put questions in the chat, but you'll do the talking.
Oh man, too much pressure, too much pressure. No problem, man. Let's do it.
Thank you. Well, I'm really, really honored that you took the time to do this. And I've had the honor of being involved in a bit of a running conversation with Jamaal since before he entered Congress. And I guess maybe I want to just start at the beginning, especially as it relates to your engagement. I think your very courageous engagement on the question of Palestinian rights. When you first started thinking about running for the House of Representatives, how much did you know about this issue? What did you think about it? And how did you think at that point, or did you think about how it might affect the course of your political career?
I didn't know much about it before I decided to run. When I was gearing up to launch the campaign, I knew I had to learn more about it because of Engel's position, right? Like his 30-year position, as well as his position as chair of the Foreign Affairs Committee. And if you remember in that race, there was also another candidate, Andam Ghebreigorous, who was like a foreign policy expert. And so
Mhm.
I had to like learn as much as I could about this issue and many others when I launched my race. And so didn't know much, tried to get up to speed as quickly as possible. That's how you and I met, as I was trying to talk to as many smart people on this issue as possible. You were gracious enough to give me your time. And yeah, so I just tried to get up to speed and learn as much as I can. And for me, it has always been a human rights issue. And it's always been about, okay, how can we make sure everyone is safe and everyone has freedom and self determination? I mean, that's kind of in the simplest form how I tried to learn about it and approach it and engage with it from the very beginning. And even to this point, it's kind of the same position. And so, as you go through it, of course, you learn more and you offer opinions and critiques and all of that, which I've done. But no, initially, I mean, I was a middle school principal, 20-year educator. Education was my issue and everything tied to that: housing, food security, jobs, inequality, justice reform. Those have always been my issues. And yeah, now it's just very interesting how God works. You talk about Jamaal Bowman, you get about a couple sentences in before Israel Palestine comes up.
I mean, I wonder if just picking up that, if folks ever came to you, or whether you ever thought to yourself and said something along the lines of, listen, I'm representing a community in the Bronx that has a lot of needs, a lot of concerns that are very far away from what's happening to Palestinians. I have the opportunity to help some folks, but if I take this controversial position about Israel and Palestine, I might not be able to do that work because this is going to get in the way and I might not even be able to hold this job. So maybe I should just say whatever it is that's going to get me in the least political trouble when it comes to Israel and Palestine so I can focus on housing and food security and education in the Bronx. Did you have people say that to you and did you consider it and why did you not take that path?
Yeah, people said that often. I never really considered it. I mean, the bottom line is, when you're in Congress, you have to vote on things, right? And so if a bill comes up or a resolution comes up that I don't agree with personally in terms of my values, but also just in terms of what the district and I collectively feel is the best course of action towards our ultimate goals of, peace and prosperity for all, then I have to vote my conscience, if you will. And so regardless of how people say, well, stay away from this issue or don't take a controversial position, whatever, at the end of the day, I have to look myself in the mirror and sleep at night. And so I have to take the votes based on my conscience that will help me to do that. Now, in all transparency, I didn't get much good sleep while I was in Congress anyway, because it's just a stressful place and you're always all over the place. But no, I just think to me, elected officials have a responsibility to be moral leaders. And I think moral leadership is about our collective humanity. And I don't use those words lightly or as hyperbole or as talking points. I mean, some of you have known me from when I was in education and how I tried to run my school and treat kids. I mean, I had the privilege of raising children who weren't my own for 20 years before I actually went to Congress. And so for me, that's where my governance comes from. We're trying to raise children from the Bronx to Yonkers to Israel to Gaza to the Sudan. Like, we're trying to raise children properly to be better than us because we suck right now.
You make it sound as if it's kind of straightforward the way you thought about this, but you're in the minority, right? I think even among Democrats from very blue districts who would consider themselves progressive, the path that you took is the path of a relatively small number of people, right? And many more.
It's the path that gets you voted out of Congress.
It's the path you get, right? So I wonder if you can give us a little bit of window into the kind of conversations you have with all those other members of Congress who took a different path. Do they just disagree with you about the realities there? Or do they have a different way of thinking about their role? Because of a different set of experiences? Like, help me understand why what you did is unusual and how people express themselves who make a different choice.
Yeah, so there's a lot of variables at play here. One is the district that I represent, right? To represent New York and to represent a certain part of New York and to represent a certain part of Westchester County, to take the positions I've taken is just not politically tenable and smart, right? Like, you're going to get backlash overall and a lot of pushback. And there was strategic organizing and pushback against me since 2020, like right after we won against Engel, because there were people in the district who had Elliot Engel for 30 years. And right next door, they had Nita Lowy for 30 years. And so now you have Mondaire Jones and Jamaal Bowman, and now you have to recalibrate, right? And so my district and where it's located in the country, many would argue not politically smart to do what I've done. I've always not understood how other members of Congress who have different districts aren't more, and it's not even, in my opinion, courageous. It's just like, have the conversation from the perspective of not just humanity, but I've spoken to people, and I believe this as well. A free Palestine is better for Israel and better for the Jewish people, in my opinion. And I've had many Jewish scholars tell me this, that they feel that way too, right? And it's sort of like the law of proximity, right? Like, what happens to a group of people closest to you will impact you.
Yeah.
So to your question, colleagues didn't want to touch it for political reasons. They didn't want to be accused as anti-Semitic. They didn't want to be attacked by the pro-Israel lobby, which is a very powerful and very organized lobby, and a very scary lobby. Like, when I first started commenting on, let's say, for example, ensuring that Palestinians receive vaccines equitably during COVID, right? And co-sponsoring Betty McCollum's bill to ensure that our money wasn't going towards detaining Palestinian children unjustly, that leads to a barrage of emails, a barrage of phone calls where we can't even do our jobs for the district. Members of Congress don't want to go through that. And then I remember taking the time, because again, I'm an educator, which means I'm a learner. So I'm taking the time trying to learn as I go through this. And reading emails, and they're using language like blood libel in the emails. I didn't even know what that was. Right. But I knew it was scary, and I knew it was scary for the people sending the emails. So I was like, oh shit, like, I don't want to be harmful. Like, I want to move the conversation forward, but I don't want to be harmful. Like, I don't want to paint the picture to anyone that Jews are bad, therefore XYZ. So all of that stuff is at play when you talk about members of Congress. The issue in terms of the anti-Semitism of it all, the lobby in terms of how organized it is, and then the money that will be invested against you and the way they threaten and bully and intimidate you very outwardly if you go against them.
Mhm. This has been a free preview of my weekly conversation. If you'd like to hear the rest and support my work, please consider subscribing at peterbeinart.substack.com.